Jesus, wait, what? Bro, no fucking way. No shot. It doesn't even have like a good jingle to it. What the fuck? Bro, listen. We'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way is a bop. Okay? It's a bop that directly says people like myself, Muslims, specifically in the Muslim world, okay, are enemies to the American state. And I will ride by that song because it's a fucking bop. Okay? I sing it all the time. I love that shit. I mean, it's really fucked up, and what it represented was, danger for Muslims across the planet, but specifically in the United States of America post 9/11. But that shit was a bop. Okay? This doesn't even have that fucking quality to it. It just sucks. Yeah, the racism is just what's carrying the song for all these fucking dumbasses. I maintain the position that I've always maintained.
You know what bothers me most about
I've maintained the position that I always maintain. Country musicians are literally the gayest dude from their towns, okay? Country song singers and writers are straight up the gayest person from their individual towns. Like, you will never convince me otherwise. I'm sorry. These dudes would be so much happier if they were just like out and about. It's fucking nuts. I have a similar opinion on like the band kid, the nerdiest kid becomes the rapper in the group from a impoverished neighborhood. And that's why a lot of rappers are the way that they are, which most people get fucking mad at me for saying. But like this is the same dichotomy on the other side, okay? Rappers are straight up never like the cool kid, okay? They're never actually like the cool, very popular, very social person in their own friend groups. They're almost always the fucking nerdy kid. That's why on camera they're always like kind of shy, but they mask it by being like a tough guy. But it doesn't matter. That's a totally separate conversation. That's one that like really annoys people whenever I mention it. Okay? Don, this is very wrong. Okay. Gay people not be the cool kid? What the fuck? Azan? No, I'm not even talking about that now. I'm talking about country musicians also on the other side in, Republican towns, sundown towns and whatnot. They are literally the most theater kid in the group, possibly also in the closet gay.
Hasan Aldean situation, it's the insincerity of his response and the blatant ignorance that accompanied it. So if you don't know, Jason Aldean is a country singer who put out a music video called Try That in a Small Town. It's basically...
Bro, even they're not normal. They're normally not nerds, but loners / social anxiety. Yeah, I think they usually have a lot of social anxiety. They're usually they're loners. You see that, bro. You always see that whenever you see like your favorite rapper in a media environment. But I think a lot of people are conditioned to thinking that, I think a lot of people analyze black people differently than they analyze white people, no matter what their background is. You could be white, you could be black. The way you perceive black people in a white supremacist society is very different than the way you perceive white people. And so when you see a black person who is artistic, who is shy, you automatically are seeing it through the lens of white supremacy. So you don't have the same capacity of analyzing that person as like maybe neurodivergent, maybe nerdy, maybe shy. You always see it as, oh, this guy's like a real gangster. This guy's scary. Like something, you have the capacity, you literally will look to a black person behaving in a way that you yourself might be behaving on a daily basis and assume that person is actually you look at it through the lens of white supremacy and see it as something that's like signaling violence. I've thought about this a lot. I don't know how the fuck we got here where we were talking about like wannabe rednecks or whatever, but I do feel that way. Rappers don't claim to be the cool kid. You are saying it. You say it like we're in 1999 and every rapper's acting hard and shit, bro. We're in 2023. Rap changed. There's a lot of different people. No, dude, come on. I know. I mean, look no further than like Opium, Vamp shit, Lil Uzi Vert. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like I think you see it in a lot of circumstances when like a lot of rappers will come on Kai's stream or whatever, and they're kind of quiet, and you think they're quiet because they're hard, but it's not. I think it's like literally because like it's not because they're hard, it's because they're kind of shy. Don't talk with shadows about rap. They don't know shit. But anyway, let's get back to this racist ass bullshit.
Basically an anti-protester, pro-cop anthem. It starts out innocently enough, castigating anyone who thinks they can get away.
Chief Keef is a great example. It's such a good example. Bro, he has a fucking Lamborghini with a Scooby-Doo logo all over it. He has a Scooby-Doo painted Lamborghini. Like, perfect. All right, fuck.
It's the insincerity of his response and the blatant ignorance that accompanied it. So if you don't know, Jason Aldean is a country singer who put out a music video called Try That in a Small Town. It's basically an anti-protester, pro-cop anthem. It starts out innocently enough, castigating anyone who thinks they can get away with robbing and carjacking people in a small town. Fine, don't do bad things in my neighborhood because we look out for our own. Great. But by the second stanza, he's moved on to scolding people who disrespect cops and burn flags. So we've shifted from describing behavior that's blatantly harmful to other human beings to behavior that's merely associated with people who don't share his political viewpoints. From here on, the whole timbre of the song shifts to a brazenly nationalistic, chest-thumping repudiation of people who would vaguely be described as woke, I'm sure. After that, he starts to make outright threats. See how far you make it down the road. Then he starts making false claims that they are coming for his guns. He goes on to describe the good old boys who are poised and ready for a fight. The songwriters are Kelly Lovelace, Nell Thrasher, Tully Kennedy, and Kurt Michael Allison, by the way. Some of Nashville's finest, I'm sure. The video, which was released on Friday, is even more egregious than the song itself. CMT had to pull it because there were so many complaints. It contains non-stop news footage of protesters being depicted as merely violent
One of the funniest aspects of this, yes, is that like country musicians being outlaws, as Chatter also pointed out. Country musicians being outlaws, right? The song in and of itself is literally about like not offending the sensibilities of the police. What the fuck kind of outlaw mentality is that? You're literally crying that people are being mean to cops, you fucking asshole. There is no better representation of where country music is now than this music video popping off and like all of these pussies loving the shit out of this. They're like, yeah, this hits all the high notes. Okay? This hits all the fucking high notes. I love this because he's saying don't protest police brutality and don't offend the sensibilities of, racist suburbanites with their fucking king ranchers and shit.
Antisocial agitators making lewd gestures at cops and throwing Molotov cocktails at buildings, a reinforcement of right-wing messaging. And the whole thing is overlaid, of course, with giant, wholesome wheat fields where the good guys hang out, and the American flag is perpetually blowing in the wind. At one point, the video depicts protesters being assaulted by police in riot gear, and one scene even shows protesters being mowed down by a police car. It's a veritable right-wing wet dream. And then you have Aldean and his band trying their best to look like superheroes outside the Maury County Courthouse. The problem is that this courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee, has a history of some horrible racial violence dating all the way back to 1927. A white woman accused an 18-year-old black man named Henry Choate of attacking her. He was immediately arrested and placed in the county jail. A white mob then descended on the jail and attacked him. He was bashed in the head repeatedly with a hammer and killed. After that, the white mob tied him to a truck and dragged him to the Maury County Courthouse in Aldean's video and hung his body there for the...
For the record, when you... to be fair to Jason Aldean, which, of course... I'm not in the business of defending, so I'm doing it sarcastically. There aren't that many courthouses where this hasn't happened in the South. So, to be fair, if you're doing it outside of a Southern courthouse, you're most likely going to, you're almost always going to run into that problem. You know what I mean? I'm sure he did it intentionally, by the way. But, like, even if you didn't want to do that, and you were like, oh, fuck, I really want to not do a racist-ass fucking music video outside of a Southern courthouse, like, you're gonna always run into that problem. You know.
A whole town to witness. Then in 1946, a black Navy vet got into an altercation with a white shopkeeper. A white mob gathered at the Maury County Courthouse in Aldean's video to threaten the black community. A group of black citizens then gathered in the black business district known as Mink Slide to provide self-defense. Columbia officers then decided to descend on the Mink Slide neighborhood. The crowd warned them to back off, but when they didn't, 4 police officers were shot and wounded. As retaliation, the Tennessee State Highway Patrol, along with a mob of...
It's your responsibility to do diligence to know more than the general public about your context, though, obviously. Wait, no. I mean, I think he did it deliberately. Anyway, I was just joking when I said it's impossible for him to fucking do that. If you want to shoot something outside of a Southern courthouse, it's almost always going to have a historical context to lynching. It's not an accident. That's why they put the fucking Confederate flags outside of the courthouses. That's why they put the Confederate monuments outside of the courthouses. I've talked about this quite a lot. When back in the day, the don't take down the statues of Robert E. Lee was like a big point of contention. Why were they not immediately built after the Civil War, but instead during the civil rights fight that was happening? Or also, why were they not built somewhere in like a museum or something, even though fuck that, who cares? But instead outside of courthouses? Well, that was because they wanted to tell black people that this is what's up. It doesn't matter if you got your quote-unquote freedom, that this system is still designed to fuck you over. Know who your masters are. It was built directly in front of these institutions of justice, specifically to reinforce that very real notion that those institutions still served a white supremacist attitude and a white supremacist interest.
White citizens descended on the Mink Slide district and completely vandalized it. They randomly fired into buildings, stole cash and belongings, raided homes, and took all of the guns that they could find from black homes and businesses, about 300 in total. They arrested over 100 black people and refused to allow them bail or legal counsel. Police later shot and killed 2 black detainees in the jail and injured a third after claiming that they tried to steal their guns. Now, did Jason Aldean or his band or any of the production crew know about the horrible racial history that this courthouse represented? I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think it's highly unlikely that they did. But that's the issue. They didn't know because they were so myopically focused on their own worldview that any outside perspective wouldn't have had the chance of getting through. Let's not forget that the Klan was started in one of these quaint Tennessee small towns. It's pretty obvious from Aldean's history on race that he isn't exactly hanging out with people that will introduce him to inconvenient truths about these small towns that he loves celebrating. I mean, this is a dude that was wearing blackface as recently as 2015.
Jesus, wait, what? Bro, no fucking way. What the fuck? Hey, another... Dude, what the fuck? 2015? Bro, you're like a famous celebrity. What's going on, man? Yeah, that's... Canadians in the chat like, wow, that's going to be our next prime minister, you know? That's like... That's leadership material right there. Except, no. Let me tell you something. No. Because we don't know if he painted his knees black as well. And Justin Trudeau certainly did. And that extra initiative from Trudeau is what makes leaders stand out. Do you understand? There's a lot of people who just paint their face and be done with it, right? Justin Trudeau, on the other hand, took the initiative and painted his whole body, it seems. And that's huge. Big deal. Big fucking deal. The big green tractor one, it's a bop. So much Barbussy has been slain to this song. Oh yeah, 100%. Never heard it. I love how you know of this song, but nothing from today. What do you mean? I lived my entire life without hearing it. Why do you do this? This legit is the sort of country Bo Burnham parodied for pandering. Aldean sort of seems like a country version of Forgiato. Like he just writes about whatever the conservatives are harping on week over week. I mean, you just described conservative panderers in general, though. There is some about country music that, like, I guess hits me in the nostalgia bone a little bit. And that is that every single time I think about country music or I hear country music, I am reminded of going to like a Barnes and Noble. And like it's just faintly playing in the background. You know what I mean? Like quietly playing in the background. Tractor song will not be stuck in my head all day. Fuck. Yes, everybody. Johnny Cash used to write songs about killing cops and how fucking unjustifiable the prison system was and yada yada. It's like basic. Barnes & Noble employees are in hell with those soundtracks that repeat 6 times a day. Listen, I know all this, okay? Oh, old bluegrass. Like, it was also a lot about indigenous rights. I know.
Clothing containing Confederate flag imagery and has even sold Confederate flag clothing as a part of his official tour merchandise. Aldean, who's a survivor of the horrific 2019 Las Vegas shooting, seemed shocked, I tell you, shocked, that the video might have come across as pro-lynching. He claims that there were no racial overtones whatsoever, and then he spun the whole thing this way. Try that in a small town for me refers to the feeling of a community that I had growing up where we took care of our neighbors regardless of differences of background or belief. I'm sorry, I must have missed that messaging. I was too busy.
Yeah, you know, our neighbors and no black people.
Listening to you make very thinly veiled threats of violence towards anyone who protested police brutality or burned a flag as a political statement. There is such a disconnect between the message that Jason Aldean is putting out there and how he wants to be perceived. And
also, let me guess, dude, what the fuck's this dude's background? Okay, is he from a small town? Because like half of these dumb bumpkins actually are just like straight up like fucking used car dealership owner children. You know what I mean? Like, my daddy owned a jet ski dealership. Oh, he's from Macomb, Georgia. Macon. Okay, that's, I mean, definitely not a small town, but guys. It's Macon. Macone. It's big, but his parents separated when he was 3. He was raised by his mother in Macon. During the summer, he spent time with his father in Homestead, Florida. Before his father went to his work, he would map out guitar chords on the notebook paper. Yes, Macon is big. It's a big city. It's not a fucking small town at all. I know. Try that in a suburb would be more accurate. True. Sit and practice all day while his daddy was at work. When his dad got home, he got out his own guitar and they played together. Soon he could play a song after hearing it only a few times. With his mother's help, he performed at the local VFW Hall in Macon. He sang John Anderson's song Seminole Wind and Tracy Lawrence's Sticks and Stones. He then began to perform at area talent contests and local fairs. At 15, he joined the house band at Georgia Nice Spot, Nashville South. In order to stand out, Aldean changed the spelling of his middle name, Aldean, come up with the name Aldean.
And this is the history of soft bigotry and racism in this country. Oh, we're not anti-black. Nothing in that song or video specifically targeted black people, but it didn't have to. He could say and show just enough to get him right up to the line without crossing it. Maybe even...
I mean, he definitely crossed some lines,
Did you know that the site where Jason Aldean filmed his latest music video was actually used for public lynchings as well as...
Like I said,
other racist gatherings
kind of a given.
Past. Hi, everyone. I'm Abiola Ogoro, and this is DSR in a minute or less. And I want to caution any black or indigenous viewers to maybe not watch today's video if any of the information might be triggering to you. We're going to be talking about lynching and sundown towns. So, Jason Aldean's latest music video called In a Small Town has been considered controversial, but realistically, it's just racist. And here's why. One of the lyrics in the video that Jason Aldean says is that they're just a good old boys roundup, or that they're just a good old boys club. And where he filmed this video was in front of the Maury Courthouse in Tennessee, which was used on multiple occasions.
The whole video is black people. Yeah, that's pretty funny because it's like, yeah, this wasn't about black people, except the music video heavily features, multiple stereotypes of black people and just directly features black people in general. Protesting Black Lives Matter, like protesting police brutality, things of that nature. So, wonder why anyone would get that idea. Also, I filmed it outside of a southern courthouse, which, of course, immediately is a beacon of white supremacist values, both historically and in contemporary society. But ultimately, he didn't say the N-word, right? So how could you say I'm racist?
Occasions to lynch black folks and a couple of indigenous folks. In the 1920s and in the 1950s, I think, and the 60s, there were numerous lynchings that happened at this courthouse. And because of its historic significance to Southern white supremacists, it ended up being the site for an event called the Good Old Boys Roundup, which was held every single year from 1980 to 1995. And it was at least 10% law enforcement officers, and no black law enforcement officers were allowed. There were 4 out of like 2,000 people that came to this event over the years, and one of them was threatened to be murdered, and the person who brought him, who was a white man, kicked him out. So definitely not a question of whether or not it was just mainly a white event, because it's not really negotiable. Anyways, so the gatherings happen at this courthouse every single year. They were famous gatherings, so much so that they were put together by an ATF officer, who some of the ATF agents later on, a couple years later, tried to say that it was a covert mission, but it was not. One of the ATF directors during the time period which this started, who was removed later on because of the pushback he got from standing up for this and some other nonsense, said himself that this was a racist gathering that was not authorized because so many other things. So we're going to talk a little about that really quickly. One of the items that were sold at the gatherings were called inward cards, and they were hunting cards to hunt black folks. And they would give those out and sell them so that people felt like, hey, Pickles, people felt like they had the...
Bro, American racism is so wild. I mean, I've studied it pretty extensively. I talk about white supremacy regularly. And even then, there's always like some new shit that you find out. You're like, what the fuck? It's just like anytime you think you've reached the end of the racism rope, you know what I mean? There's more. There's always more. It'll surprise you. It'll always surprise you. There's just too much. There's too much racism to fully understand. You know what I mean?
Permission that they needed to go on lynching, what do you call it? You guys know what I mean? Lynching expeditions. And so, again, no debate. And don't forget also, Jason Aldean is from Macon, Georgia, which has been known to be a very large-scale site for racial segregation and has a very checkered past when it comes to white supremacy.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's like a lot of... Macon is there's definitely black people that live there, too. It's, Georgian city, but there's a lot of racist people that live there as well,
and the Ku Klux Klan. And so Jason Aldean was not raised in the area that
Macon, Georgia is documented as one of the most segregated cities in America with extreme poverty gaps between black and white populations.
And so Jason Aldean was not raised in an area that didn't talk about race. He was not raised in an area that is new to race. He was raised in an area that has served as a launching point in Georgia for significant racial discrimination, including most recently in which they passed multiple voting rights laws, anti-voting rights laws that tried to remove the voting rights of people that were black and indigenous in the area. Now, back to the lyrics. So there is a second set of lyrics that he uses in the song in which he says, try and punch a cop, and I'll put the rest below, but try and punch a cop.
He says people like myself.
And you won't make it out of our small
That
town. And I forget the exact lyrics, but the other part of it is saying that after dark, you shouldn't be in his small town. If you're unfamiliar, there's something called sundown towns, which many people hail it.
Yeah, that wasn't, dude, that's not, come on, you guys are misunderstanding. Like, that's not a call to violence or call to arms or even even sundown towns, you know what I mean?
As being a past relic of American slavery and racism, but they still exist today. A sundown town is essentially and very likely a small town in various states in which there are not huge populations, and they very literally will have signs or will tell you, or it'll be known that if you are black or indigenous and you are there, once it gets dark, they will murder you, and that they have the right to lynch you. And this was something that has been touched on in a couple of different things. There is a green book called the Green Motorist Negro Travel Book, which gave a list, an updated list of places that black folks should not stop in or should try and drive around back in the day because there were so many sundown towns.
Wait, where is the sundown town reference? Wait, did I misunderstand it?
Part of it is saying that after dark, you shouldn't be in his small town. If you're
Wait, where does he say that?
That has served as a launching point in Georgia for significant racial discrimination, including most recently in which they passed multiple voting rights laws, anti-voting rights laws that tried to remove the voting rights of
I'm
people
looking
that
at
were
the
black and
lyrics.
indigenous
Where
in
is
the area.
it?
Now, back to the lyrics. So there is a second set of lyrics that he uses in the song in which he says, try and punch a cop.
Plus a cop, stomp the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough?
And I'll put the rest below. But try and punch a cop, try and do X, Y, Z, and you won't make it out of our...
Around here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. Try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town. Oh. She's just talking about making. Okay, never mind. Because I don't think he says... No. He doesn't ever say, like, you won't make it out the night or anything like that.
Small town, and I forget the exact lyrics, but the other part of it is saying that after dark, you shouldn't be in his small town. If you're unfamiliar, there's something called sundown town.
Like he doesn't say you can't stay here after dark. Not that it matters. I mean, he's fucking racist. But where? And he said after dark too, apparently. Wait, where? No, he doesn't. Why are we hyper-focusing on a stupid fucking semantics thing? Like, I mean, this is already, like, very clear. Very clear. You need to go down the road as a country threat. Yeah, no, I know. Oh, fucking racist. I don't know what it... Maybe... Listen, chatters are going to say, Hasan, I can't believe you just, like, accuse someone of racism. It's the worst thing you can do. But, like, I typecast him a little bit. But, god damn. I don't know what it is, but, like, this is the guy you cast as, like, a guy who's, like, secretly leading the clan. There's, like, a quiet intensity to him. You know what I mean? And it's still getting a lot of coverage because he just basically leaned on the racism. Like, the racism is carrying the song in the charts. Like, it's not a very good... This is not, like, going to be... Nobody's bopping to this at the Walmart, okay? This is not being played at the fucking Barnes & Noble down the street over and over again because of his bop-like qualities. And I think it's just not a very good song at all, but it is being carried by, it is just being simply carried by the racist dog whistles in it. Literally 3 different sunsets at the end of the video. I can't. Yeah, no, he was definitely showing the sun setting. I mean, the entire video is also at night. But yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that like he would be alluding to that as well. But I don't know. Is he smart enough to do that? I feel like he's just like,
which many people hail as being a past relic of American slavery and racism, but they still exist today. A sundown town is essentially and very likely a small town in various states in which there are not huge populations, and they very literally will have signs or will tell you, or it'll be known that if you are black or indigenous and you are there once it gets dark, they will murder you, and that they have the right to lynch you. And this was something that has been touched on in a couple of different things. There is a green book called the Green Motorist Negro Travel Book, which gave a list, an updated list of places that black folks should not stop in or should try and drive around back in the day, because there were so many sundown towns. Now, there are less sundown towns now, but there are plenty that still exist. And many of the sundown towns would allow for certain groups of people, immigrants, and again, black folks, to come through during the day because they would have them as servants. But because they could not protect their actions during the day, they would tell them and make it a rule that, like, you can come here and work for us during the day and you can pass through very quickly, but if you're here when it gets dark, you are going to be killed, and we are telling you this. And so when he references the small town over and over again, and then references saying that you better not be here after dark, that is a direct correlation into talking about sundown towns. And again, he's from Macon, Georgia, which has many surrounding sundown towns in the past and has some aspects of sundown town history still today. And so I hope you guys consider all of these different things. I don't know, it's not that I don't know. So often people will try and cover up their racism and use coded language, but this was just a racist song, and there's no getting around that. And the video was racist too. And filming it at a courthouse where you know lynchings have occurred, it's not an accident. So, especially with so many people having to approve that to be done. So, that's all for today. I'm Abiola Ogoro, and Princess is being so persistent today. Hello. And that's all for now. We'll see you later. Bye.